There's two things that happened to you in Santa Monica. You either got well known for something or you died. That was it.
Just opening up a magazine and seeing just a photo of Natas and him just completely standing out.
I remember being pretty fascinated with the guy, just everything about him, you know, his name and the fact that he was 100% street.
If I had to say what his skating style was, I would just say it was like strictly brute.
Back then, skateboarding was very different. And you didn't really strive to be a pro skateboarder. You just did what you did, and things kind of fell into place.
You start going on the streets and doing rails. I mean, come on, quit it. It's destroying property, it's hurting, but they were so enthusiastic and you couldn't stop, how shall I say. The skateboarding just started, and of course we bought the boards, and Natas would ride it ever since he walked, so to speak.
Natas grew up in South Santa Monica, California, in the area known as Dogtown. During his early childhood in the 70s, Dogtown became famous for its good waves and aggressive locals who were pushing the limits of what was possible in the water, as well as on any paved terrain they could find. Surfing and skating were practically a given for anyone in the community, and Natas was no exception. But by the time he was old enough to gain recognition in the neighborhood, the Dogtown hype had died down, and skateboarding was in a lull.
You know, the Dogtown thing had passed over, it was kind of over with, so everybody was like doing drugs and surfing. It was kind of a rough neighborhood.
The drug scene was huge, and they have seen all kinds of things on the pier, as you know. So I was concerned, but I wasn't overly worried.
One of the cooler things was that we kept an eye on the younger guys, because we knew there was a lot of bad shit that could happen to them. So he got to focus on his skateboarding, because we wouldn't let him do anything else. Because surfing and skateboarding were what he did.
In 1983, Natas placed first in a local surf contest and received as a prize an SMA skateboard. Santa Monica Airlines was operated out of the back of a surf shop as a part-time hobby of Dogtown pioneer Skip Engblom. Natas was so impressed with the board that he decided to pay Skip a visit.
And one day this little kid comes skating up to the back door of the surfboard factory where I'm at, and he goes, "I'm Natas, and I want to be on your skateboard team." I started laughing because I don't really have a skateboard team. I just make these things customs. And so I went, "Let me see you skate." So he just kind of pushed. I did this one ollie, and I went, "That's it, man. Come here." I go, "You are the skateboard team."
Although Natas now officially had a sponsor, he and Skip remained largely under the radar of the skateboard industry. But Natas was making quite a name for himself in Santa Monica, using a new approach that involved only his local street environment.
It didn't go to pools and ramps and skate parks that much. There was a couple of little banks by the house, but it's mostly like the curbs in front of my house and benches.
You'd see him at the beach every fucking day, trying shit. And that's what Skipper loved about him.
You know, they were tearing it up like surfing kind of style on anything, you know. And it wasn't just that they needed banks anymore or a pool or something. I mean, it was a whole different kind of skating.
I remember the day that Natas actually decided that he could ride walls.
Everybody did this thing where they would run up to walls and throw their skate on it and kind of ride on the wall. And that was kind of the state of things, you know what I mean? And then one day, he's not using his hand. So he's skating right up to the fucking wall, and bang, he's up on the wall. And he hangs up there and he skates off. Mother little bastard, you know? You see that? Unbelievable.
Natas soon caught the eye of Dogtown media wizard Craig Stesic, who photographed him on a wall in Venice and sent the pictures to Thrasher magazine. Natas had never even owned a Thrasher at the time, let alone been published in it, but they were so impressed with the photo that they decided to put him on the cover.
And there's sidewalk, and then there's wall, and then there's this guy. And we're going, yeah, all right, he's on the wall. How did you draw him in there? I mean, come on, we know collage when we see it. Oh, no, the guys really do this. And it was like, no way.
You just looked at it and you realized that his internal gyroscope was so different than anybody else's.
I think he made it more three-dimensional, street skating.
As Natas acquired more coverage in the magazines, the more progressive skaters of the time also took notice.
The first time I seen him was in the magazine, and he had big bar-striped shorts on, and he's all into pivot on the bumper of a car.
And that was just like, what? How the hell did he get up there?
Isolated in his own environment, his skating was out of sync with the trends of the sport in the early to mid-'80s.
Mostly the magazines had vertical skating. The guys we liked a lot were like Billy Ruff. On vertical, Billy Ruff was like completely smooth. So when we would skate quarter pipes or any transition, we were trying to be smooth like Ruff. When we went to the quarter pipe, we saw Natas there. And like when he came up to the quarter pipe, going up to the top, banged it, like hit it right off the top of the thing, and we're like, whoa. Because, his style is more from surfing. When he's out skating, like he's going down the line like as if he was surfing, like one constant rather than going to a spot and doing tricks.
When we'd leave his house to go skating, it was never like, well, we're just going to roll down to the beach. It was right into tricks. It was like, as soon as he left the house, put the board down, it was like, boom, the board was flipping. Boom, it was up the curb. Down the street, grinding up the curb, cut off, dodge around a couple cars, ollie over another curb, down to the beach, slappy a curb, up, grind the bench, it's like, I should be following him like, damn.
Natas began skating regularly with Julian Stranger, who also lived in Santa Monica, and would meet up with Mark Gonzalez, one of the few established street skaters of the time.
So I never was that clued into like the whole skateboard culture. Like I'd do stuff and then I'd meet with Mark and he'd actually tell me what it was called.
I think Natas could do whatever he wanted to do. Like it's just what he chose to do. My favorite trick to this day is a Wally. I think he invented that one, for sure.
We'd get together every couple of weeks and he'd see what the other guy was doing. And like, be like, oh, like never thought of that. I was doing this.
Mark and Natas' frequent sessions began serving as a drawing board for what was next in skateboarding, as they pushed each other to new levels of skill and creativity. One of the many important innovations to come out of their meetings was the transfer of Rodney Mullen's ollie kickflip from freestyle to street.
Mark, he was the one that showed me that, and he couldn't do them either. And he was like, look, you go out, you ollie, and then you kick it, and it was just so funny, spending the whole day landing with 1 foot on, 1 foot off, like, and then finally get it. It took forever. And we got together the next month or two later, and we were both doing them out of driveways and catching them in the air and that sort of thing.
After Natas got his own model on Santa Monica Airlines, his growing reputation began translating into board sales. It became a problem around 1986 when the fledgling SMA couldn't keep up with demand. At age 16, Natas surprised everyone by taking matters into his own hands and arranging a manufacturing and distribution deal between Skip and the much larger Santa Cruz Skateboards.
He actually did the deal for me. The Santa Cruz wanted to sell boards with his name on it. They had to be SMA boards, and that I was part of the equation, and there was just no going back. That was one of the great things about dealing with him, is that at 15 or 16 he was way brighter than I ever would be.